Hi, everybody. This is Justina, and welcome to the continuation of our Web3 class as we're going to discuss privacy, privacy coins, and concerns within Web3 regarding privacy and encryption. So let's start with the definition of what is privacy. Privacy, broadly speaking, privacy is the right to be let alone or freedom from interference or intrusion. Information privacy is the right to have some control over how your personal information is collected and used. Decentralization, in this case, facilitates autonomy, including giving users control over the data. So privacy, as it says in the definition, allows the user to have some right to have control over personal information and how it's collected and used. In the Web3 economy that is more centralized, it's actually the websites that own your data, and the user doesn't really have much say regarding their own data and how it's governed and used. And that's why privacy would then be important. Transparency is another topic because transparency leads to community safety and giving users control. So right now, when we look at that, we say, well, how easy is it for someone to go in a Web2 world and get access to know what information is on them is being collected, what isn't, and how much of that is being used and who's using it and who's monetizing that information. Right now in the Web2 world, the information is being stored, tracked, you give your rights, and there's a whole agreement written, and that in the agreement says that agreement can be changed at any time. And the user doesn't really have the autonomy that would allow them to have more information on their privacy and their rights. So what are privacy coins and how do they work? Privacy coins are like cash. So when you go into a bank, the first thing that happens is you may have that transaction with the bank of taking out the cash. But after you take the cash out, actually, you can go and start spending it in different places. And actually that is not being able to be tracked. So at that moment, the cash is private. The information on that cash is private. So currently data is used to make money for others. So your information, where you go, what you do, what you eat, what you search, that information is not owned by you. It is owned by other corporations, and you do not have the right to that data. So we're going to discuss why that is important, how privacy coins are an example of having security, and how privacy and security go hand in hand. So privacy and encryption. Currently, what privacy coins actually do is they give the sender the privacy, so the wallet address privacy. They have cryptographic privacy, so the transaction is actually is private, and then the balance visibility and the data collection is private as well. So it's private and secure. So there's different coins that are private, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to go through some of them and show how they work and why it's important and how that relates back to what we said about privacy and security. So coins like Monero and Zcash. In Monero, the way that it is made private, it is through a ring signature mechanism, which Monero is a decentralized currency. It uses public distributed ledger with privacy enhancing technologies that obfuscate transactions to achieve anonymity and fungibility. Observers cannot decipher addresses trading Monero, transaction amounts, address balances, or transaction histories. So that's going back to our slide, right, of what do privacy coins allow someone to do. And the way that it works, the mechanism here is the ring signature, which means it takes and randomizes how who the user is. So it's takes the idea is it takes 5 addresses and then randomizes which one it's from. So you can't really tell who and from the money's going to. And Zcash, for example, is another privacy coin, which is a fork of Bitcoin. There's only 21 million Zcash coins. And the way that it works is using ZK-SNARKs, aka zero knowledge succinct, non-fungible interactive argument of knowledge, is a technology to allow miners to verify transactions without knowing who sent or received the coin. So again, you can have a mechanism that allows for privacy and security at the same time. And yet, why is this important? What does it do? How does it relate to everything else we're discussing in this class? So according to least authority, what security enables is control, and it allows for integrity, availability, and confidentiality. So in the case of you interacting with a bank, what you think is you're going to get integrity from the bank because they're not going to take the money out of your account. So we rely on the system to act as intended and data to be as we left it. We think the data is available. So or your money is available. When you go to the bank, you expect the ability to go there and collect your money, and you expect them to keep for the data to be confidential. Now, in the Web2 world, we expect that, but however, we may not always have that because unfortunately, the way that it's made, it's not really confidential. We don't really have privacy in the Web2 world because these companies own our data. So having privacy on the blockchain in Web3 and the use of privacy coins would give the users back the power. Also, decentralized autonomous organizations would give the user back the power. And what does that really mean? And why is that important? So here's the thing, right now, there's a monetary value. So let's say for every user of Facebook, there's $35 that Facebook makes per user. Now you have 1 billion people using Facebook. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of money. In a lot of parts of the world, that may make a difference for somebody's livelihood. So why is it that Facebook gets to keep all the money from that? And what it would mean in a system where you actually have more control, like we said here, if you had the control over your data, because you get to tell the company if you want to share in Web3 your data or not, or you get to have a smart contract that tells you what data you want to share or not, you may be getting a piece of that $35. So where would the line fall? Is it you get 50-50, the company gets 50% for sharing your data, or should you actually be getting 70% of that? It is your data that you're producing by going on walks, by going on a bike ride, by, how many times do you go to the bathroom? How many times do you go up the stairs? How does that affect your hospital visits? This is all data that we don't think about being monetized, but companies are monetizing that. How much do you hold your phone? How much screen time do you use? When do you use it? What are your other buying patterns? We're consistently giving companies the ability to track us, to use our data, and to become the product. And Web3, the whole point of it is for you to become the person who owns the data, has privacy, and then shares the data that they want to. For example, when you're going into a store to buy alcohol, what they need to do is to card you and see, are you the right age? But do they really need to know your name? Do they really need to know the date of birth? Do they really need to know anything else about you? So privacy, how can we verify things and yet not give our information away? And that's done through encryption. And those are the mechanisms that I was showing you. And the use case that I used was privacy coins. But this technology can be used for so many other things, whether you're going to the doctors and what data do you want to share with specific, when you interact with specific hospitals, do you want to share all your data? Maybe you don't. If you're going to see someone for a cold, do you really need to tell them that all your other information? What part of that do you want to share? Or maybe you do want to share the data. Maybe you want to give your data and sell it to companies that are doing experiments on a specific group type that you're in, right? So it's like you are the one that becomes in control of your data, whereas in Web2, the data is really used to make and monetize on your behalf. But what are the concerns with having encryption and privacy? Well, there's, if one user can own 20 wallets and we don't really know who that user is, that person can go and trade and manipulate the entire market. If they're a whale and they have 30, 40, 50, $60 million and they want to dump on the market that specific date, they can maneuver the whole price. And people would not be able to see that. Because on a private blockchain, you can't really, like on a Bitcoin blockchain or Ethereum blockchain, you can see that wallet address and the money moving in and out of that wallet address. Whereas on a currency like Monero, you will not be able to see that. Then someone can do money laundering. So there's concerns being raised by SEC, I'm sure in other countries, by other officials. And there's also concerns regarding transactions and wallets for taxation, right? So if Governments want to see how much money is being made off the transactions you're doing, the business you're running online. How are they going to be able to do that if you're the owner of all the information? So I think it's always going to be a dilemma between regulatory surveillance and privacy of the individual. It's just right now, the market has been more skewed towards a place where it is the corporations that have more of that versus the people who are actually being used for their information. So as we move into the Web3 world, as when people start going to these other systems, they can opt for different things. It's kind of like the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe Rogan had to pay Spotify for him to be able to publish whatever content he wanted. Why is that? Because some companies have so much control in the Web2 world that when they say, it's against company policies and those policies can be changed at any time, they have that level of control. So this really affects news and information and so many other things. And it also affects money. So Web3 is a whole ecosystem. For what we did here, I discussed the use case of coins, but of course it goes beyond that. And I also discussed like your own data and how that could be used. So I hope I gave you guys a good idea of privacy and the concerns, and yet how the encryption of using the blockchain and these mechanisms like zero knowledge proofs, or what we discussed for Monero, which is ring signatures, which is randomizing what wallet it came from. So you can't really decipher and go back and know who was sending that money, that anonymity that it gives people. And there's other things. And some of these coins are proof of work, which is the other blockchain system that's considered to be older. And some of it is from proof of stake. And you can do more, you can investigate this further on your own, but for the purpose of this class, it was to give you the concerns, the ways it can be used, what kind, and what it existed, and why it was important. So I hope you guys enjoyed this class, and I look forward to continuing this Web3 class with you. Thank you so much, and have a good day.